Ladies and gents, you know what it is. Mac and Miles, Mac and Miles, Mac and
Oh
Miles.
my. uh, People, if you think that should be an intro, let us know
Yeah,
because
I mean,
Mike's being serious about this.
yeah, like Wiz Khalifa has brought the inspiration. I don't even know why it came into my head, but I think it'll link. I think it'll work. The people will love it, is all I'm going to say.
It'll be
Uh,
catchy.
so, mm, ladies and gents, episode 39 of the Two PTs One podcast. We are looking into tracking devices, and generally, I think we're going to look in terms of Fitbits, Whoops, Garmin's. Like, I'm not asking you to like GPS your location if you're stuck in the hills. We're looking in terms of your sleep, your heart rate, and all the general metrics that you will get.
Fitness
Getting
devices.
them, yeah, why getting them is good, and potentially not so good as well, as that is a big thing as well.
Ooh,
Oh,
fancy.
this is what I mean.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I've got a Fitbit. I think I've run through Fitbits for a couple of years, really. This is what I mean about my laptop just ignoring my notifications. But yeah, so I've ran with a Fitbit and I've gone from basic models, which give you basically just steps and your heart rate, to more advanced levels. So I think my level now gives me a measurement on my sleep, my movement, and it also senses when I'm going to be going through phases of increased intensity or a perceived workout as well, which is quite good.
Heart rate.
Yeah. So obviously, like before, I think it was just like I'd have annoying notifications every 15 minutes saying, you need to go and walk. I'm like, yeah, no,
I
that's not,
I absolutely hated that with Fitbit. I mean,
yeah,
I did it with Garmin a little bit as well, but like every 15 minutes, like, oh, we've noticed that you've been a sloth. Move. No, I don't need to move every 15 minutes. Leave me alone.
could you imagine if you got up every 15 minutes if you worked in an office job and just did one lap of the office and be like, great job.
Great job.
Everyone thought you were a psychopath.
Imagine if I had a loud notification.
Yeah. And that celebration and the balloon it gives you when you hit 10,000 steps just played on like loudspeakers.
So where Michael's mostly had a Fitbit, I've pretty much tried them all. I've liked fitness watches for a very long time now. I started off with a Fitbit. I think it was a Fitbit Blaze, I believe. And then I went to the Fitbit Blaze 2. And then I went to the Vivo Active 2 made by Garmin. And then the reason why we started this podcast episode is because I'm now trialing out the Whoop band, the 3.0, even though they've released the 4.0 now, but I got given it to give it a go. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have a little bit of a chat about why we first of all got them, why you might potentially want to have them, and the pros and cons are all about it. So pretty much what Mike said about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So obviously, for me, you get out of a Fitbit, except like I think we need to just generalize and just say we'll just say Fitbit, but we're on about everything. Just so we don't go. So if you have a Fitbit going, da, 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 da.
Well, how about we just say fitness watch then? Oh, it looks like
Yeah.
we just paid advertising for Fitbit.
If you have a fitness device of some extent, you get out of it what you want to take from it. For me, you can get all the information in the world, but if you don't understand what half the information is for, there's no point in really having it. It's great to keep steps and you've got your heart rate and everything else, but then if you don't understand the implications of resting heart rate, why that's going to be important over time, and then what information you can take away from that as well, that'll be a big thing. It's
Yes.
like the body, like let's say stress, the body's responses to stress can be quite easily seen through devices like this at the most primitive level. Resting heart rate increases, general heart rate increases. I know mine does oxygen capacity or uptake to some extent. You can generally just see in terms of respiration rate what's going to happen and generally just how you feel on a day to day. Whereas your perception of a lot of things is going to be based off yourself. It's kind of like RPE to a certain extent. It's like your difficulty and degree of 10 might be difficult to my extent of what I believe is a 10. And the information that I take from that in terms of like a sleep pattern. What you perceive as good sleep, to me, might be terrible sleep. And like I know I can live off 5-6 hours sleep. And it was kind of bad for me to say as a personal trainer, but I can function quite well off 5-6 hours of sleep, and you wouldn't know any difference.
I'm not advertising on the slightest. Before I say anyway, I am not advertising. I think sleep is one of the best things we potentially have.
Oh yeah, but like I think it's just because of how like how busy I am at certain points in my life. Like I'll obviously try and catch it up, but for me, it's consistency and quality over the duration of it. So like my sleep is very good when I have 5-6 hours. It's really good when I have obviously 7-8, but then obviously if I've only got the time for 5-6,
there you go.
I'd
So
rather make
it's
that
not
good
a simple
quality.
case. It's not a simple case of that the fact that you cope off 5 or 6 hours. It's the fact that you prioritize enough in your day to have only 5 or 6 hours. That's pretty much what it is. Maybe
Yeah,
you know. But when it comes
well,
to
it's obviously
when it comes to fitness watches, the biggest plus with it is the awareness it brings to you. Like Mike just said, it brings a lot of things to your day and a lot of things that you can measure as well. Obviously, the biggest thing that most people get fitness watches is obviously steps and stuff like that. And it's another way of making life a little bit easier, whether that's through notifications through phones. If you're a runner, for example, you can see obviously your speed, your heart rate, how much distance you've ran through the watch as well. Garmin's are very good for stuff like that. They're probably known for more runners. Hence why I got the Vivo Active when I was starting to do my 5Ks and stuff like that. But the thing is with all of them is a lot of people will go to ask and go, right, which one's the most reliable source? And obviously, yes, we do want to tend to get the most reliable information we possibly can. This is why some are obviously better than others. But for me, as long as we're consistent with the measuring of the tool that we're using, regardless how accurate it is and stuff like that, if you're constantly measuring with one thing and that goes up, then that's possibly progress, and if that goes down, that's probably deprogress. Obviously, just saying in the grand scheme of things and stuff like that. But I think overall, I think a lot of people over the years have got more into fitness watches and stuff like that. I think obviously you look at, let's say, the Apple Watch here and now, like not very primarily a fitness watch. It's mainly for an accessory for the iPhone because Apple have their own ecosystem. But through that, people have gone into monitoring stuff like the things like the steps, sleep, and the heart rate, regardless whether they know 100% what they need to do. Because a lot of people will know if you want to, let's say, help with the efficiency of weight loss, then steps are going to be a good count. So people go, all right, okay, sweet. I need to track my steps. My phone can track steps, but sometimes my phone is not always on me. Therefore, I will get a watch. And that's a great way of getting into it. Some people like to track unfortunately, the amount of calories that they do from workout, which is something that I definitely don't believe. I think that is probably one of the most useless features on a watch, just simply because I don't believe that people should be tracking their workouts for calories only. I think there's so many other metrics, but I'm not going to get myself into that right now.
You can't chase back calories in that respect, and it's like you've seen influencers do it in the past when they've been like, okay, let me do a 10,000 challenge, 10,000 calorie challenge one day, and then do a reverse in terms of trying to burn 10,000 calories in a day. You're always going to be chasing a metric at that point, especially if you're chasing over time, and you're not going to enjoy it. That's the biggest thing. I think that's why resistance training is so big for me.
Yeah.
But
That thing is like regarding that, obviously, when you get these kind of fitness watches as well, they take a lot of information, things like your height, the way your age, and stuff like that. So by the end of the day, you've got a rough estimate of your TDEE, so your daily energy expenditure, and you can use that again as a metric to see whether you're burning a certain amount of calories and whether, obviously, if you match that on a daily basis, whether you're obviously increasing in weight, decreasing in weight, or maintaining the weight. And obviously, through that data alone, you can kind of go, right, well, obviously, if I'm tracking through calories, if I reduce what my watch is saying, therefore I'm going to be in deficit, and vice versa, being obviously into a surplus. But yeah, what you were going to say then before, Mike?
No, it's for me, my favorite analogy when it comes to this kind of stuff is you literally just have a Tamagotchi on your wrist, except now the Tamagotchi is yourself.
Mate, I never had Tamagotchi as a kid. I missed that era.
I didn't. But then it's the same principle in terms of like, okay, but and we could probably link it to Pokemon to certain extents as well, in terms of obviously you're having to look after a certain thing, you're willing to give it the time and attention, but then in the same respect, like you're not willing to give it to yourself until someone tells you off to do so.
Yeah.
And potentially to a certain extent, you could look at this as a personal, obviously not today because I haven't got it on. You could look as a personal trainer well, no, your watch is a personal trainer telling you to do more or do less or whatever.
Yeah, it's an accountable
It's
tool.
obviously, whilst everyone's going to be saying, "Oh, it'll push you to do more," to a certain extent, could it be also doing the reverse and telling you to do less?
See, this is the thing is like, so I think a lot of watchers don't focus so much on that. There's so much focus on, right, do this, do this, do this, do this. But the only thing that I've seen that has actually seemed to have focused on the recovery side of things is Whoop. And this is the reason why I'm trying it is at the moment, because they measure through two metrics. One, obviously, strain, or three metrics, really. One is obviously strain, so how much strain you put on yourself through workouts, day life, all that kind of malarkey. The other one is recovery. So obviously, recovery will be looking at things like your heart rate variation, respiration, sleep, and stuff like that. And then obviously the third one is sleep itself, because obviously sleep is so important, it deserves its own metric. But I think in the grand scheme as a whole, watches could do a lot more to obviously set to make a standpoint of recovery. Like we were saying before and stuff, if you know what you're doing with the data, like if you look at heart rate in itself and stuff like that, you can see when you might need to go lighter on some days when it comes to intensity. But if you're a novice and let's say your husband has bought you a Fitbit because you like to do running, then you might not know them kind of metrics and why to know them metrics in that kind of regardless.
So I've pulled up an old day of mine. So Fitbit, you can link it to your phone, so you get all of the information connected straight through. You'll get the same with most devices, especially if it's an Apple to an Apple. And this is going to be very interesting to show in this respect with this light. I don't know if I can do it that well. You got steps, floors, miles, calories. Fitbit do stress management, sleep. So they also assess it in terms of, it might be quite hard to see. Let's pick a good day. Let's go 8 hours. So it gives you a scale in terms of your quality of sleep. Sleep, we haven't actually done as an episode. I don't think, not in terms of the extent of like what the phases are, but it'll show you the phases of what you've got. And then it'll show you in terms of a comparison of your 30 days and also over what the benchmark should be for the average person.
Future and then podcast incoming.
Yeah. Track your mindfulness. So obviously this isn't something the device will do. You've got to sort of keep your own head into that. Resting heart rate, but then you also have health metrics. So breathing rate, heart rate variability. Obviously, this is the kind of stuff where unless you go to someone that knows this kind of stuff, the details kind of going to be missing. It's going to be like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean to me? If you don't know, you're going to be like, oh yeah, just scroll. Skin temperature, oxygen saturation, and then resting heart rate again. Because it's even like skin temperature. To a male, that might not make that much difference. Or if you're ill. To a female, that might mean a lot of
lot of
information.
things. Yeah. So now the question is really, are fitness watches are they more important for different sexes? Because like you just said, then it can be at all. Like one of the main things I was looking at when I was researching about this was an Olympian. I can't remember her name now, but she was able to find out that she was pregnant. Well, no, after she had a pregnancy, she found out that the Whoop information knew obviously she was pregnant because obviously generally when you are pregnant for women, temperature drops and your heart rate goes up. That was the other way around. I always forget. But she was able to fight. She was able to look out, and before she even knew she was pregnant, the information was already shown there. So if you knew that, you could probably look at finding stuff like that. They even did that with COVID at one point. They found out that there was patterns in COVID before even the test found out. So it's a great insight. It really can be. I think it really does give you some good information if you again know what you're looking at and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's biomarkers, like biochemical reactions to certain stuff, and it's obviously stress, cortisol. If cortisol is going to affect your heart rate and your resting heart rate, are we at a point where it's something that we don't physically need to improve what we do in the gym, etc., to get healthier? It is literally everything else around training that needs to be improved. So I think people don't need to look at this as the black and white in terms of, right, this looks really poor. I know this isn't something you're going to go to a doctor and be like, well, doctor, look at my Fitbit results, because they're just going to be like, that's absolute bullshit. But then it's also the implementation over the space of a week, a month. I wouldn't say a year, because you can do a year if you want, but over a period of time, if something is consistent and consistently not at a norm or higher than it should be, do we need to address something within that? And obviously going to someone like a coach or someone that's in that realm will then be able to dissect the information that you have from this and be like, okay, so I can read from this that this is an issue. And because you want to achieve X, Y, and Z, I know that this needs to be improved before we get anywhere. I can read from this information that you're sleeping 4 hours a night and you want to lose weight, or you want to get better at running, or get stronger. I can tell you before we even touch a barbell that you need to improve that. Heart rate. If you're working to create a lot more stress to the body through an increased heart rate and a relatively high heart rate, you're never going to be running at 100% for your heart rate, because the capacity will not run. But if you're already starting at a relatively high point and you can't build the threshold over time, you're only going to get so far before you're going to need to deload, or you're just going to burn out completely. So let's see what information we can dissect in terms of that's just two easy ones relating to training. But how much more, depending on the device, because Miles's will actually be that person for you and prescribe that information and say, you need to recover more, you need to sleep this amount of time, you need to aim for this. Whereas Fitbit, I think it's more Gen Poppy based, just to be like, here's the information, yeah, do with it what you want. Because it's also the basis of, in terms of, I said to you today, my heart rate for my shoot was 39. Now it's running at about 50. It's not bad. It's not good. And then obviously it's the comparison between the majority of people that they'll go on the NHS website and probably see information and be like, oh, well, the NHS website says it's good. And the NHS website says I need 1,600 calories a day. So why would the NHS lie to me?
Just throw that on there. It's true, but that's the same. That's the same when it comes to regardless of gathering information anywhere, and realize the specificity when it comes to all information. But oh god, I've lost the thought of head where I was going to use them and stuff like that.
Well, I spoke a bit of I spoke a bit about Whoop. So I would say you dissect a little bit of your Whoop app.
Mm.
Because obviously you haven't been on it that long.
No, so the thing is, when you first get Whoop, it takes 4 days fully to calibrate to you. So I'm only really into day one, really. So I've kind of just. So obviously, by the
You should
time
have
this is
postponed this a
released,
week.
I know exactly. I should have recorded this when I've actually got my 4 days thing. But there we go. But yeah, but it's already detected obviously my sleep, the workout I did obviously today, and it's already given me some kind of metrics and stuff like that. But it's already kind of saying to me it needs more data before making any suggestions and stuff like that. And that's why I think this is very, very good if people really want to take that information to the next level. But do I believe that everyone needs this kind of information? No. Because
Probably stress
sometimes when
people out more.
yeah, exactly. And I think we spoke about this before, Mike, in the fact that when you are presented with information, regardless of what you feel on the inside, you take it as it is. So, for example, you might be feeling tip top shape, in the best mood whatsoever, and for some odd reason, your information from your watch is telling you, right, you need to rest. All of a sudden, that mood could just be like, ugh, well, I need to rest then. Vice versa, you could be really not feeling up for it. You've either had a lot of stress at work or stuff like that, and your watch is going, great, crack on with mate, go for the hardest workout of your life. And this is where they're tools, but they're not. What's the probably word I can think of to describe us? Yep, Osaka. We'll leave it with that. They're just tools, and you should be the ultimate decider of whether you're going to 100% listen to that or not. And I'm going to have to change the location because I've just realised my laptop's about to die on me. So, Mike, carry on while I move.
Yeah. So I was actually going to talk about something quite interesting in terms of, I said this to you today in terms of why I've stopped wearing mine is because the perception of how good my sleep was or how I thought my sleep would be changed ever so slightly just because I would read the device and think that that was the be all and end all.
Yeah.
And it actually wasn't. And in the same respect, I liked it. I've just thought of this in terms of, you could be fully wide awake, you could be absolutely fine, and then you hit a point and someone walks in the room and they yawn, and you automatically yawn, and then you start feeling tired, and you never had that level of tiredness already. Is the Fitbit potentially going to be causing the same effect to you because it says, well, you got 9 hours of sleep last night, but the quality you got was very, very poor. And it's like, well, I slept 9 hours and I thought that would have been good. And then the quality has now made me think that I wasn't. It wasn't. So now am I in a realm of thinking, do I need to be tired? Should I feel tired?
Yeah. And the
Should
thing
I
is,
be taking a coffee right now?
this is quite interesting actually. Also as well, for people who can't see me and stuff like that, this is the level of commitment I'm doing to this podcast. I'm currently holding my mic because I'm sitting down on my couch because that's where my charger is. So if there we go, the level of commitment, ladies and gentlemen, respect it. But this leads me into a study I was reading about the deloads, and when, for example, when like the idea was it that the coach didn't say anything about whether it was a deload or not, and we both holding mics.
Didn't want to make you feel left out.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like a football commentator.
No, I feel like what's the guy from like UFC or something like that, or boxing? It's like, let's get ready to rumble.
You need to flip it upside down, and then you've got it.
There we go. 1 sec. So right, back on topic. But yeah, the coach would obviously decide whether the client needs a deload or be training hard, and they found that when the coach was telling the client, right, you need to deload, you need to relax, you are probably going to be tired when this happens because of what we're doing for training, the client found themselves more tired than they actually were because of the actual intent that they brought to the session. Vice versa. So when he said, right, you're going to be feeling peak, you're going to feel at your strongest, you're going to feel your best. And they found that the client was repeating them type of actions. So it's a similar case like that, where the watch is telling you something, It's almost like you feel it yourself, like a placebo effect. Then it's a placebo, then like a
Gazebo
gazebo,
effect.
a gazebo effect. But yeah, and that's where potentially watches and fitness devices have their downfalls. That you stop taking your own opinion out of it and put fully all your eggs into this device.
Yeah, takes your own personal perception away,
100%.
and and one thing I can probably guarantee: a fitness device or tracker isn't going to overshoot. It's always going to under deliver. It's never going to be saying, "Yeah, you know what? You slept 9 hours, but I think you slept 10." It'll never do that. You might have that perception in terms of like, oh, if you go to bed at 10 o'clock and you might just sit there lying awake for an hour, but your perception is you went away. So if you went to bed at 10 and got in bed at 10 o'clock and you laid there for an hour till 11 and then slept till 8, you've got 9 hours. But
Yeah.
your personal perception is you went to bed at 10 o'clock and slept till 8. Oh, well, I think I got 10 hours. So that must be great. I feel much better on 10 hours than I do for 9. But, oh, wait, no. Negative Nelly on my wrist here is now saying that my sleep was terrible because I actually woke up twice in the night to pee. Took a bit of time. So I've now gone from 10 hours to 7 hours 45. And that isn't my 8 hours. And now I feel terrible.
I know. And then quickly you could just change your mood just like that.
Yeah. That's probably also why you shouldn't start your day by reading the information. You only flag the information if it's coming up as terrible or you think something's wrong. Like, you can change the settings on what you'll see on a Fitbit. So you can see what you set in terms of heart rate, steps. I'm never going to put anything else on there for me to easily see. If I'm flagging a consistent issue or noticing that my sleep has got poor of late, can I look at the information that I'm getting from that or pinpoint it to something that's going on in life? Typically, you can say it down to stress, or there's a certain scenarios and certain nights of the week where, say, you're typically sleeping alone and you're sharing a bed with someone, and then your sleep quality drops on those nights when you're not used to having a person and you're used to sleeping on your own, for an example. Or did you go out the night before, drink a load, still keep the device on, and it says, well, you slept for 12 hours, but the sleep quality says it was 3.5. It's like, we can put that down to alcohol. So you've always, it's no point, same conversation really. There's no point having the information if you're not going to use it and look at it and dissect it. If it's great, it's great. If it's not great, can we pinpoint that as something that needs to be improved, or is it just a one-off?
Yeah. And the thing is, what with all fitness watches now, they're almost becoming a full-on device where you're seeing every notification coming through your phone. Now, Mike knows I pretty much have turned all my notifications off my phone because I am responding to him as quick as he usually does. But that's
my Instagram's off. My WhatsApp, which is clients, is always on.
Yeah, likewise.
Because clients are always
the only thing I have is messages from certain people and calls. And the reason why I do that is if I'm working, if I'm with a client or I'm doing something that's important to me, I don't want to keep getting distracted. And we all know that every time we do get distracted by something, whether it's a little notification, whatever it is, that reduces our battery if we were to use it on making decisions and capacitating and receiving information. And by the time that it's the end of the night and you've taken a lot of things, you've got a lot going on, you've had a lot of notifications coming in and stuff like that, you're going to make bad decisions at night. If you ever feel like, for example, if you've ever been a part of a WhatsApp group and you've got about 14-year-olds, they've got 14 odd lads all messaging in at the same time, and you're trying to talk to someone, and all you hear is bing, 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 bing. That's going to get annoying really quick, and you're going to feel like you're missing out massively, rather than just go in later on, you check it out, and you just go, right, all right, 50 odd messages. What's going on here?
Everyone has got that friend that doesn't send paragraphs. They send lines of
Words.
messages.
Yeah, hey, it's like, what you doing? Question mark.
Hey, what are you doing? That's one ping. I only need one ping. But then if it's on my watch, it's like, duh, duh, duh. I don't need that in my life. Because it's also not the fact of it's a buzz and I look at it. It's also a buzz. I have to read it. I have to think. I have to respond. And if you're doing that 40, 50 times a day, your
It
attention's
adds
gone
up over
from,
time. It really
yeah.
does. And people don't think they do, but it does. So that's one thing that I don't agree with. Michael, if you could pick one thing that you feel like fitness devices as a whole could improve on, what would it be?
Oh, Jesus.
I know, what a question by me, isn't it? Me and my holding mic. One
Oh God, you
hour
might have to come back to me
later.
on this one. This is a toughie.
Indeed.
Because I'm obviously just thinking in terms of what we currently have access to and what the potential. Because obviously there's a great amount of potential, but then it's obviously I don't know the technology on how far they can go. The fact that they can get breathing rate in when it's something that's on my wrist, because evidently from what I know as a coach, I do not breathe through my hands. So I'm very impressed that they understand my breathing rate from my wrist. And it's obviously information like that. And I'm like, But then obviously it depends on how far it goes. But then I think in terms of the metrics that they will access, they need to reduce the amount of notification it comes as saying you need to do 250 steps in the next 30 minutes to be on track for 10,000 a day. That needs to go. What needs to come in is identifying trends for individuals on something that might be something that's bad. Not necessarily bad, but something that should be improved.
Something that's important to the person wearing it.
Hey, in the last 2 to 3 nights, we've noticed that you've only had 4 hours sleep. We would advise X, Y, and Z. Your resting heart rate has gone up 2 beats in the last week. Look towards something like meditation to help you relax in the evening.
Yeah, and that's probably the one thing that I would definitely say is like we've just said quite a few times. People might be getting this information and might not be knowing what to do with it and stuff like that. And if they start allowing that, so they start not teaching people but advising people, just like, right, let me have a look at this, have a look at that, then it might help the individual wearing it itself. Again, like I know Whoop is kind of doing that at the moment. This is why I think that. I know Garmin does it a little bit. I'm not sure about Fitbit.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think they all kind of doing that. I know Apple with that Apple Health does it as well. I think they're all kind of doing it, but I think they could do a little bit more with it as well. Yeah, because there's loads of things that they're now really tracking, but it's going to the point now is more better. If they track all these things, is there a point where the information gets lost because there's too many things to track? Like for me, I don't want to track every little individual thing because I don't need to. I
I
decide to
need to
track on
care
a
about
few things, and that's that, and then build up on top of that.
what would you say are the 3 most important?
Ooh, sleep.
Yeah.
I definitely say sleep. The amount of times I've said to my clients now, I said, like, if you had 8 or plus hours of sleep and that was a pill, it'd be illegal. Because the amount of benefits that come from having a good night's sleep is unreal. And it's something that, like, even I have to constantly tell myself is important, because if I don't sleep very well, one, I turn into an emotional wreck. Just everyone annoys me.
Watches as it
Two,
fucking cries all the way through.
yeah, exactly. Just cry through every single movie and all that. Get me my Ben and Jerry's. But the other thing is, like, my stress level goes up. My tolerance to talking to people, as in when I say tolerance to talking to people and stuff, I like to just be on my own when I'm tired.
Yes. Be
I
honest.
like
Your tolerance to BS is
I
high.
just want to be alone. Leave me alone with my thoughts. But no, but it's just like I like to be by myself when I'm tired. I tend to eat more, tend to drink more. As in when I say drink more, I tend to drink more things like fizzy pop and stuff like that, or more caffeine to wake me up, which then later has a negative effect So by the end of the night, I might be consuming whatsoever. And that's all because I decided watching a YouTube video late at night. When really I could easily watch that within the day if I had time. Or do I need to really watch it?
What would you put as second and third?
Funny, I'll probably put everything into that really.
I asked for three.
You did ask for free. That's a good one.
I think I knew mine.
Heart rate. Heart rate's a must.
Yeah.
Heart rate's a must. What would I say is a third one? That is a very tough one.
I'd go for the easy one.
Don't want to say steps. Because I think the one thing I've realized to myself, steps is a good for one for people before people say I don't believe in step counting. I believe that people, if you're not very active, let's say you got a desk job and all that, counting your steps is a great thing. But I don't tend to need to track that because most days I'm playing football. I'm doing a lot of cardiovascular.
That's obviously person specific.
But that's what I mean. So that's what I think. It doesn't relate to me that much, but to the average Joe, it might do. So sleep, heart rate, time. Time.
Yours doesn't even do that.
Time. No, yeah, Whoop Band doesn't even do that. It doesn't even have a clock.
It's just a band.
Probably, yeah, just probably how much, let's say, work to rest ratio I probably need. So whether do I need to work more on the recovery side of things, or do I need to work towards like I can work a little bit harder? Yeah. They will generally be my three. I'll probably be thinking something later on and go, oh, I really should have said that. But nah, from what I can think of from the top of my head, they're the three I like to track at the moment. And that's not going into specificity when it comes to any type of sports, because I'm sure runners will go tempo, time.
Yeah, but then you can get into
distance.
You can get into like the Nike running app and all that stuff, and like that's a specific need and demand. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna pick this app because it helps me count my reps and sets, because that's something different.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm like, yeah, that's something that I'd probably say that's on most watches, but I don't use. I don't think I've ever used anything like that. Mm-hmm. I know. For example, when I've done the workout topic and all that, it's count how many reps I've done. But last time I can check, I can count the reps and I can track them myself.
My new Fitbit will actually provide my number 3, because you nailed off my 2. I wouldn't put heart rate though. I'd put resting heart rate as a priority, because not everyone's going to look at their Fitbit during the day and during their training just to be like, oh, because even if it's 90 or 100, people are going to be like, what's the difference? Why do I need to know?
When I said heart rate, heart rate as a whole.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
The elevation and stuff like that, and it's a key factor when it comes to training and recovery.
Yeah. So mine, sleep, heart rate as a general, more resting heart rate more than anything, RHR, and mine will change my Spotify for me.
So we've just gone into the thing of like, right, the watch should be less than an app and more of a actual watch, and you've just gone, right, it needs me to change my Spotify for me.
Yeah, because
here's an important feature. I do use it.
It's a good feature. I won't lie, especially when you're training and you can't be asked to reach for your phone. You're like, say less.
Yeah. But guys, I say we've covered most things on this episode today. If you've got a feature or you've got any type of question about what you want to talk, what we've talked about today, by all means, message us. Our information will be in the bio below. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you've enjoyed my change of scenery from my table to my couch and the level of effort. It would be really meaning to us if you like and share the podcast. It means that we can grow, we can get to more people, and that people can hear our entertaining voices. But all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you all in the next one. Have a good weekend and peace.
Peace. Probably be
Michael
sleep
Miles,
next time.
Michael Miles, Michael Miles,
Michael Miles, Michael
Michael
Miles,
Miles, Michael Miles, Michael Miles.
Michael Miles.